Over the years, and no matter the sports, Minnesota and Wisconsin's rivalry has provided endless passion and drama. Today they meet again, this time on the hardwood. They do so for the 200th time. Minnesota-Wisconsin next on BTN. Welcome inside the barn. We are here at Williams Arena, BTN basketball, where today the 200th installment of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Good afternoon, everyone. Corey Provis alongside Sean Morris as we take a look at our Buffalo Wild Wings starting lineups. For the Badgers, the same five, but Sean, for the Golden Gophers, a change for Richard Pitino today.
Akeem Springs, the transfer from Milwaukee, inserted to give them a little bit more offensive flow, especially from behind the arc, 39% from deep. Akeem Springs, no stranger to the Badgers. Remember, last year as a member of the team at Milwaukee, they went in and won in Madison.
Packed house here at the barn today, by far the largest gathering all season long here at Williams Arena. Wisconsin has won 5 straight in the series. Minnesota coming off back-to-back losses. The Badgers 15-3, 4-1. Wisconsin beat Michigan, had to rally late, and won by 4 at home back on Tuesday.
And since the win versus Purdue, let's keep an eye on the production of Nate Mason. Since that period of time, Corey, he has really struggled shooting the basketball.
It'll be Lynch and Happ to jump, and Hayes runs it down. Wisconsin has it underway. Glad you're with us here on BTN for Minnesota and Wisconsin. Mason defending Koenig early on. And now it's Koenig. He was clutched down the stretch. Ball knocked out. It'll stay with Wisconsin, 10 to shoot. Really good team defense. The good, strong show and hedge by Lynch. And then a nice job by Mason of getting low and coming over the top of that screen to be on the catch. The offense has been slumping for Richard Pitino's team, but not the defense.
Well, they're tops in the conference in field goal percentage defense as well as defending behind the arc.
Late clock, Koenig up top. He loves that spot. Missed, rebound, taps out to Brown. And Minnesota must win those 50-50 balls if they're going to win today.
This is a team in Wisconsin wants to grind out the clock, and offensive rebounding a big part of it. Plus 10 on the season in rebounding margin.
Hayes has played great in his career against Minnesota. Now Showalter on the drive, the reverse off the glass.
And a savvy play by Vito Brown, Corey. He stepped out, that took away the post help, that allowed the clean turn to the rim. Nice play by Vito Brown of understanding and respecting spacing.
Showalter 6 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists against Michigan. Now Mason, he'll try to create, shooting over Brown, and it fell out, and Showalter had position inside.
Well, good block out by Showalter.
Koenig's put up great numbers, especially in conference play. Now Ethan Happ. That's his spot in the paint against Lynch and one.
Well, Lynch isolated down on the block, and Ethan Happ able to take advantage, and shows you why it's so important to convert with the offhand.
There is Greg Gard. Since 1938-39, the quickest Badger coach to reach 30 wins. 30 and 11. Happ not a great free throw shooter, but knocks that one in. And Wisconsin leads early on by 5.
Yeah, Happ 50% from the foul line on the season.
Akeem Springs, as Sean mentioned, starting today for Minnesota. Just a second start. The slip to Lynch, and he scores off the dish from Coffey.
Nice two-man game on the left side of the floor. They come strong on the show with Coffey, and a good slip to the rim by Reggie Lynch.
One native Minnesotan to another. Coffey from Hopkins, Lynch from Edina, as Hayes was fouled before the dunk attempt. And this will be on Jordan Murphy, his first.
Minnesota had not been able to get into any kind of offensive flow, but a nice two-man game. You set the screen, you slip, and the nice delivery. Good two-man game on the left side of the floor by the Golden Gophers.
Happ finds Hayes. He got Springs up. Nigel Hayes, the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, had 13 points and 6 rebounds in the win against Michigan.
but he did struggle from the foul line. Well, 40-10 from the foul line for Hayes.
Coffey, nice find to Lynch, and he was fouled before the shot. So we see that two-man game again between Coffey and Lynch. And this is on Happ, his first. Richard Pitino beat Wisconsin his first ever attempt here at Minnesota. That came back in 2014. Since then, he's dropped the last 5. Coffey over Happ.
Really smart play by Coffey. He understood that he could create space with the dribble, and Happ didn't want to come all the way out to contest him. Nice job of utilizing the dribble by Coffey.
Coffey, interesting numbers, Sean. The last 2 games, both losses.
What you see defensively from Minnesota, they're going to fake the double. It's not going to be a strong double, but they're going to make the offensive player think that the strong double is coming and then back away.
Murphy over Vito Brown, the mid-range game, a deep 2. Koenig around Lynch, had it blocked. Pass up the floor, and Showalter got a hand in the lane, and Wisconsin has it. That was a great chance for Minnesota in transition. Instead, Wisconsin finds Lynch, I should say Happ, bothered by Lynch, and Coffey runs it down along the baseline.
Nice job by Lynch of forcing Happ underneath the basket and then walling up defensively.
Springs, the graduate transfer from Milwaukee. Off the fake, a deep 2.
That's what you want to do defensively if you're Wisconsin. Run Springs off the 3-point line.
Springs surpassed 1,000 career points. Last time the Gophers were home here against Ohio State, he was honored just before this game began. Showalter for 3.
What a beautiful pass by Ethan Happ. He waited for the traffic to clear, and then he used his peripheral vision to see Showalter spotting up in the corner. Excellent delivery out of the post feed from Happ.
Showalter 35% from beyond the arc, and the Wisconsin lead is 4. Murphy driving on Brown. Good defense there from Brown, who was questionable today. Sprained his knee against Michigan, did not practice on Thursday, but starting here today.
Yeah, they've got a mismatch. They're going to take advantage of this.
It's Happ against Murphy, up and under. Too strong off the glass. But now another save, and Happ throws it off the body of Lynch, but it stays in play.
And they have numbers.
And Happ slid off the floor.
Yeah, he landed hard. You can tell he's running somewhat gingerly down the floor.
Foul will be on Vito Brown. Minnesota will have it, and we come back early on at the barn. Showalter and the Badgers lead by 4 on BTN. 10-6 Wisconsin, early stages here at the barn. 15:21 to play in the opening half. And we welcome you back inside Williams Arena with Sean Morris. I'm Corey Provus. Minnesota has dropped back-to-back games. Did not play, have not played since losing at Penn State last weekend. For them, the bye come at a good time?
I think it did, because it gave them some practice time, gave them a chance to, for a guy like Amir Coffey, to kind of get his legs back under him. He struggled kind of hitting that proverbial freshman wall, but a really good job by Minnesota of bouncing back from a disappointing loss on the road versus Penn State. And Corey, we were at shoot-around today, and we saw Ethan Happ in real action fall off the floor. That looks like me trying to get out of the tub.
And that's a drill that all the young players for Wisconsin, first time they visit the barn, that's part of the tradition. Nate Mason curled out, and Bakari Konate checks in, grabs the rebound. Here's Coffey, slashing, kicking, Mason. Now back to Coffey, this for 3.
Really nice offensive execution. Coffey drives baseline, kicks it out to Mason, who then utilizes the dribble, and Coffey replaces coming from the baseline to the right wing.
To finish up that thought, that scene that you saw with the Wisconsin players, that goes back to Bo Ryan's run as well. First time at the barn. Elevated floor, have to experience it. And the freshmen, one of the first-year players, certainly did that today. This is Nigel Hayes with a miss. Ilikainen with the follow attempt, and Konate clears.
And both coaches utilizing coming out of the timeout. Lynch goes to the bench for Minnesota, as does Happ for Wisconsin.
Mason for the lead. He's way off, and Ilikainen, the only current player on the Badger roster from the state of Minnesota, with the rebound.
Good strong cut. That is
Koenig.
that's beautiful. Because they have to respect him going out to the three-point line, he starts cutting out that way, Corey, that forces the defender to honor that. Then you cut off the cut very sharply, the curl and delivery.
Now, Wisconsin, Sean, as you all know, we're so used to using up that shot clock. Their average offensive possession about 20 seconds. Do not expect that defensively that early in the possession. Coffee for three. That rattled out, and it's Hayes with the rebound.
But it was a good read, to your point, Corey, by Koenig, of understanding that the defense overreacted and used the defensive intensity in that situation against the Golden Gophers.
And a whistle away from the ball. This will be a foul on Springs. Richard Pitino is going to chat with Jordan Murphy. Jim McBrayer and Eric Curry check in. Wisconsin also bringing in some subs.
You see Springs, yeah, just bumping the cutter right there, throwing off Showalter, throwing off the timing, the chuck, and they catch it.
Jordan Hill, Dimitri Trice among those checking in for Wisconsin. As is Khalil Iverson. His first touch against Coffee. Too strong off the glass, and Curry the rebound. Numbers for Minnesota. Coffee the lead. McBrayer with the left hand. No, and a foul.
How about the athleticism by Coffee, Corey, to avoid the charge? They kick it ahead to Coffee off the good defensive stand. Now watch him slide to the side to avoid the charge, because that's something that Wisconsin really excels at, is getting back in transition defense. Coffee sensed that, slid off.
Foul was on Jordan Hill, the redshirt junior from Pasadena. Now McBrayer at the line shooting two. He has struggled with the three-point shot the last few games. McBrayer coming off the bench. Team Spring starting the second time all season long.
And Corey, now with Reggie Lynch on the bench and Happ back in the ball game for Wisconsin. Let's see, with Konate guarding Happ most likely, if Happ tries to take him out to the short corner and beat him off the dribble and not go with the straight post up, but maybe step into the short corner and try to utilize his ball handling and quickness ability. Good job by Konate of beating Happ to his spot.
Hayes against Curry, and a whistle and a foul. And Eric Curry thought he had all ball. Instead, he's going to be whistled for his first.
A little bit of a ball fake. Good strong cut by Happ. Takes Konate out, and Konate does a really good job of beating Happ to his spot.
It's the fourth team foul in Minnesota. Two here for Nigel Hayes, a 60% free throw shooter. Hayes over his last 12, averaging 15 points and shooting better than 50% from the field in that stretch. No surprise, Wisconsin has won 11. One of those 12 games before this one today. Curry against Brown.
He kind of aimed that. He didn't shoot that. It didn't have a smooth motion for Curry there.
Matrix Rice leads the Big Ten in three-point shooting, the freshman. And the bounce to Hayes again with Curry, and Curry's going to be whistled for his second.
And that's nice recognition by Wisconsin, Corey. They understand that they have the experienced player in Hayes being guarded by a true freshman in Curry. They isolate him on that right side of the floor, the inside pivot, and that's an easy call for the official to make. He has two hands on him as Hayes turns the corner, but that's a nice job of understanding the mismatch in terms of experience.
This is Happ against Konate. Happ with the left hand fell out, and it's Mason. Curry, his second foul, he comes out. Jordan Murphy back on, no-look feed. Mason to Murphy.
How about the job by Mason in the open floor of shielding off Hayes? That allowed him to turn the corner. He utilized that left arm. That allowed him to get by Hayes.
Mason third in the Big Ten in assists per game. Gophers have assisted in all 5 of their made field goals.
Mason also almost a 3-to-1 assist-turnover ratio. Outstanding.
The freshman Trice, Greg Gard said today he's been better than the coaches believed he would be at this point. Brown at the foul line. Got it off. Hayes went up for the rebound. And a fresh 30 for Wisconsin, but Trice walked. That'll take us to a break. Minnesota ball when we come back.
Minnesota in the open floor. Mason, utilization of the arm bar in the open floor. Murphy rewarded for running the floor. The barn is raising here.
One-point game, 11:39 to play in the opening half. Minnesota and Wisconsin, the 200th installment between these two longtime rivals. Well, the Gophers 3-3 in league play. Wisconsin 4-1. They meet today. They also meet to wrap up the regular season in Madison on March 5th. Here's Coffey, penetrating, had it blocked by Happ. Along the baseline, it's Brown who beats Murphy to the ball.
Canate's done an admirable job defensively with Lynch on the bench, Corey.
Lynch picked up one early foul. Koenig bounces to Happ. Against Konate, spun out. Konate's minutes this year have decreased with the arrival of Lynch.
Good job by Showalter.
Walter forcing the turnover. Minnesota turned it over 20 times in the loss at Penn State last weekend. This is Hayes, high arcing two. And now Mason. Coffey off the glass and gets the roll. And Minnesota has its first lead today.
Really good job by Minnesota of spacing the floor. Coffey converts, but it was the job by McBrayer of giving himself up. Watch McBrayer on the right wing. He sprints to the corner right there. That forces the defense to freeze just enough in the form of Zach Showalter, allowing Coffey to turn the corner. But that's not possible unless Dupree McBrayer gives himself up.
Opened up that lane for the freshman Coffey. Took a hard flagrant foul against Penn State. Good to go here today. These two teams have struggled at the line, Sean, especially in conference play. That's worth watching if this game remains close throughout the afternoon. Vito Brown juggled, recovered, missed the shot.
His feet weren't set when he went into the shooting motion.
Off balance with the left hand. That's a strong hand. McBrayer no. And here's Hayes. Badgers 2 of their last 14 from the field. Happ looking for Brown.
Yeah, Brown needs to get out of there and let him go to work. Brown took his defender with him. That clogged up things for Happ.
Brown a miss. McBrayer on the run. He lost his dribble. Got it to Springs somehow. A three for Springs. A 7-0 run. The lead is 4.
Minnesota just locked in defensively. Excellent communication thus far.
Happ muscles on Konate.
That's more than carving out space.
6'10", 232 beats 6'11", 235. Shot clock is under 10. Mason on the bench. It's McBrayer with 2. McBrayer gets it off in time and scores.
Nice step back move by McBrayer because Showalter did a pretty good job of moving his feet initially, but McBrayer able to create space with that little back dribble.
McBrayer averaging nearly 12 per game. Happ to Hayes. Now Hayes against Murphy.
A lot of isolation basketball. They're trying to isolate either Happ with Konate guarding him Or in that situation, Hayes one-on-one with Murphy, and they're just backing him down.
Now Murphy has one foul. Was that a factor in how he defended Hayes a moment ago?
I think it was that, and also the fact that Hayes shows you the ability to score with the left hand. They were not able to just jump his left shoulder and or right hand there.
Coffey trying to beat Happ off the dribble. Got him up, now leans in. Wild shot, good defense there.
How about the footwork by Happ? We talk about footwork on the offensive end, but how about on the defensive end by Happ? They had him isolated with Coffey. He took away the left hand.
Rare Wisconsin turnover, just their second. In fact, the Gophers have 2 as well. A 2-point game. Here's Murphy against Brown. He lost it off his foot. Hayes backing Coffey down. Lowers the shoulder, spins, had it blocked out of bounds. Wisconsin ball when we come back. Amir Coffey, the freshman, and the Gophers lead early on at home. 2-point game. Minnesota with the lead, 20-18, 7-10 to play. You see Nate Mason so far quiet today. Sean 0 for 3, does have 4 assists, but since that great effort, 31 points against Purdue, Mason's been rather quiet offensively.
Once you turn the calendar year, the scouting reports get that much more designed to stop the leading scorer, and Nate Mason is a great example of that. He's averaging 14 points per ball game on the year, had 31 as we saw there in that big win on the road at Purdue, but has struggled shooting the basketball over the last 4 ball games. You mentioned the 4 assists versus only 2 turnovers. Again, continuing his outstanding assist or turnover ratio.
And looking ahead to today's ball game, Mason made no excuses. I need to do more. I'm the leader of this team. He's hoping for a strong showing today against Wisconsin. Here's Hayes. What a spin on Murphy. Lost it. It came to Iverson.
And Lynch back in the ball game, the shot blocking presence for Minnesota. I tell you what, Coach Pitino has to be very pleased with the minutes he got by Konate.
Iverson did not score against Michigan. His bucket ties the game at 20. There's Lynch back on the floor.
Good move out. What a screen by Lynch.
Springs brought it low, nearly tied up. Comes out to McBrayer for 3.
Dribble penetration, sucks in the red jerseys of the Badgers, then the kick out. That allows McBrayer to step right into it.
Minnesota 3 of 5 from 3 for McBrayer, just his 3rd made 3 in his last 5 games. Koenig trying to answer and does.
Koenig in their last game for Wisconsin, they struggled offensively for long periods of time, but Koenig 3 of 5 from deep in the winning effort versus the Wolverines.
Springs fancy dribbling, and that one rattles out. Get back to Koenig for a moment. In Big Ten play alone, his 3-point shooting percentage off the charts. Better than 60% from 3 in league play.
And Charlie Thomas as well as Iverson in there, so your offensive options essentially come down consistently to Hayes and Koenig.
Hayes for the lead. Hayes has 8. And Wisconsin back in front by 2. Hayes is averaging around 12 points per game in his career in 6 games against Minnesota. Springs trying to answer back for the lead. He does.
Down screen. Springs takes the freshman down. He takes Trice all the way down. Then he comes off hard shoulder to shoulder on that little curl. Experience again paying dividends for Springs.
Springs has been much more productive here at home than he has been on the road. As Lynch bumps Hayes, that's going to be number 2 on Reggie Lynch. And a couple of free throws upcoming for Nigel Hayes. Coming up at the half, the State Farm halftime report with Dave Rebson, Mike DeCourcy, and Deion Thomas. All coming up at the break, the State Farm halftime report. Pitino will have to stay out of foul trouble against Penn State. Played 32 minutes despite the loss in State College. He has fouled out of 4 out of 6 Big Ten games.
And he just got pulled away from his defensive comfort zone, and Hayes was able to sense it.
Hayes for 3. Nigel Hayes having a big half. 11 points already. There's Coffey. Trying to slip it to Konate. And Konate could not grab it. Turnover number 4 gives it back to the Badgers.
Right idea by Amir Coffey. But Corey, you have to understand the intended recipient. Even if Konate is able to corral that pass, it was going to be down around his waist, and he wasn't going to be able to go up and score. If you're Coffey, you have the right idea. You want to be unselfish, but you have to understand who's on the other end of that pass.
And now Mason the steal. Got in front of Koenig. Mason with the layup. It's blocked from behind by Iverson. They're going to count the basket. They will count the basket. As Iverson was trying to pin that up against the glass. Goaltending the call. Credit 2 for Nate Mason. And we have a timeout at the barn. All tied at 28. Badgers and the Gophers all tied 28-28, 3:57 to play until halftime. Now, Wisconsin over the years has had no trouble bringing in good players from the state of Minnesota. Now, as I mentioned earlier, just one active player hails from Minnesota. There is Alex Hilakanen from Grand Rapids, Minnesota. But look at this. This is just the last 10 years or so, and thanks to Patrick Herb, the outstanding SID for Wisconsin for this note. Impactful players from this state: Lohr, Taylor, Berggren, Bruzewicz, Cameron Taylor, not just role players either, but impactful players for Wisconsin from the state of Minnesota.
And that's what makes the addition of Amir Coffey and the return to the Twin Cities of Reggie Lynch that much more important, Corey. Not just what that gives this team tangibly, but also intangibly.
Hayes got Konate up. And Nigel Hayes with 13. Wisconsin leads by 2 to finish up that thought, though. A big verbal commit just 2 days ago for Minnesota. Daniel Oturu, a big post player from the Metro. He committed a couple days back. Springs, he's a streaky shooter, and that's a good sign for Minnesota as he knocks down another 3.
And again, it was the dribble penetration which forces Wisconsin to react defensively. That allowed Springs to trail the play and step into that 3.
Springs hit 5 threes against Ohio State. Has 3 in this first half.
What Konate has given a big lift off the bench for Minnesota.
Murphy swept it away from Hayes, and then the senior commits the foul. First foul, Nigel Hayes. Right after we are done, an all-new episode of The Journey. And speaking of Nigel Hayes, he'll be profiled on The Journey coming up. See how Nigel has made a difference in the life of a local family. The Journey, can't miss programming. Coming up as soon as we are done here on BTN and BTN to go. 13 points, 4 rebounds for Hayes. Mason. Happ and Konate. Showalter got a timeout as he was leaning towards the sideline right in front of Steve McJunkins. He got the timeout. So Wisconsin will have it with 2:36 to play.
And the reason it was granted, Corey, he wasn't flying out of bounds. He had possession with his feet inbounds, and he had 2 hands on the basketball. That's not the situation which put in place the rule that we saw a few years ago where guys would be jumping up in the air, ordering a sandwich, then they're calling timeout on the way down. Left side of the floor by the Golden Gophers.
Happ finds Hayes. He got Hayes. The first half he has had, Sean.
And he's done it by understanding mismatches. At first, it was the experience he had over Eric Curry, got him into foul trouble. Then he was able to step into a jump shot. And when you don't close out under control, Hayes cannot just get to the rim, but can get to the rim with either hand.
Hayes has the last 7 Wisconsin points. Here's the lob. It was tipped. And Hayes the last to touch it.
And how about Konate? Konate was the player for Minnesota, which sensed that the lob needed to be a little bit higher, but nevertheless, Konate again giving quality minutes with post defense for the Golden Gophers.
Konate with the ball right now, averaged 22 minutes per game last year, down to about 10. Playing a solid first half. Coffey. Oh, man.
He had struggled. We talked about the fact that last couple games on the road, the freshman had struggled. not so far, showing you why he's going to be one of the elite players in this league.
He's got 9 points. He's attempted 7 shots. Happ low in the shoulder. Kicks it out. Showalter for 3. An air ball.
And defensively again, Springs did a great job of coming down, showing the double, but it wasn't strong and aggressive. But I'll tell you who was aggressive was Amir Coffey, able to turn the corner and get to a strong hand, elevate at about 6'7". Nice touch in the lane. That was a good offensive sequence. We just saw a tremendous defensive sequence by Akeem Springs.
Here's the lob to Springs against Koenig, and Happ from behind with the block. Springs got it back, and it's off a leg, and last touch by Wisconsin, 17 to shoot. And Minnesota's going to take a timeout. 1:38 to play, and 17 to shoot for the Golden Gophers. Again, the State Farm halftime report coming up with Dave, Mike, and Dion. State Farm halftime report coming up from our BTN studios momentarily. Has this half played out the way you envisioned?
I tell you what Minnesota has done defensively, especially Konate, this has been a team that has done a nice job of understanding the defensive scouting report, and Amir Coffey showing you his versatility, dribbling with a purpose to create space. Here he came off the baseline and then replaced Mason, able to step into the 3, then running the floor. Great team offense in that situation with McBrayer giving himself up, and then the most recent basket for the player of the year in the state of Minnesota last year, able to get in the lane under control and elevate.
Minnesota has assisted on 11 of their 13 made field goals. And doing all this with the lead, Nate Mason only 2 points on 1 of 5 shooting. And Minnesota turns it over.
Good job by Happ of coming out and helping Khalil Iverson. I think Happ sensed that Coffey was trying to set him up. He's on the left side of the floor, which is his strong hand, and trying to lull Iverson to sleep. And a good strong hedge and show by Happ leads to the miscue.
Wisconsin is in the bonus, 16 fouls on Minnesota. Here's Showalter in the paint, off the glass. Showalter with 7. Under a minute to play. Mason pulls up for 2.
That was a tough shot by Mason because you had Happ flying out of it. Mason able to maintain his composure inside of the rim.
It's 4 points, but 6 assists for Mason. Here's Koenig, got around Springs. With Konate defending, no. Happ the tap, and it comes into the hands of Springs, and the shot clock is off. Minnesota can hold.
Let's see if they utilize a little bit of dribble penetration. That's been able to free up Springs on a number of occasions, Corey, where they've been able to get in the lane, force Wisconsin to react defensively, and then the kick out. They're going a 1-4 set here with the 4 along the baseline.
Mason pulls up at the buzzer. And that'll do it. The first 20 complete, and at the break, Minnesota leads by 3, 35-32. The State Farm halftime report from our studios in Chicago is next on BTN. Welcome back to Minneapolis. About to begin the second half from Williams Arena. At the break, Minnesota 34, Wisconsin 32. Corey Provis and Sean Morris. We take a look at our auto owners insurance game leaders. Nigel Hayes with 13. Akeem Springs, Sean, for Minnesota with 8.
The insertion of Akeem Springs into the lineup certainly paying dividends for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And Nigel Hayes, Corey, showing you his versatility. Didn't force anything. Pretty efficient. 5 of 10 from the floor. And what those jump shots did is that it then allowed him to free up the ability to create off the dribble, and Wisconsin for periods of time did a really good job of understanding mismatches, whether it was with quickness versus a guy like Bakary Konate, or experience in this situation where he was on the floor with Eric Curry.
And you saw a lot of green circles, green makes on that graphic a moment ago in the paint, and that was a favorable area once again for the Badgers in the first half. 18 of their 32 in the paint. Motel 6, sixth man. Decree McGrayer for Minnesota. McGrayer 7 points. A couple of assists coming off the bench today. Akeem Springs starting for the second time. First time in league play, the second time all year.
And a nice job by McGrayer of responding to coming off the bench. And the bench was so important to Minnesota's fortunes in the first half. We saw what McGrayer was able to do with his 7 points, but I want to come back again to the job Bakari Konate did in 13 minutes of action. He did not score, but he didn't have to in order to provide an outstanding presence along that back line defensively for the Golden Gophers, especially with Lynch with 2 fouls.
Yeah, Lynch only 7 minutes. Konate season high 20, and that was in the overtime win at Purdue. Konate on the bench. Minnesota with the ball, up by 2. There's Mason, got Showalter up for 2. And half the rebound.
Let's see if they try to get a shot for Koenig in this situation. Only 5 attempts in the first half. He got going in the second stanza last time out for the Badgers versus Michigan.
Key part of that big run that Wisconsin made with about 6.5 minutes to go. At one point, Koenig scored 10 straight Wisconsin points. This is Hayes against Murphy. Over him and scores.
And what you saw when they were effective with the double teams is that they would come down hard and then help out the shooters. But there, the double team, even the feigned one, was not forthcoming, and Hayes able to take advantage and back Murphy down.
Now Lynch beat Happ, and Happ recovered and swatted it from behind. Lynch had the lane, but Happ recovered.
When Lynch brought it behind his head, that allowed Happ to come over and make the play.
Happ against Lynch, and now Lynch responds with a block. And then Lynch.
I think they got a foul on Mason.
They pointed to Vito Brown.
Oh, yeah, Vito, okay.
Vito Brown whistled for the foul for Wisconsin. And this was away from the ball.
Last time down the floor offensively. Now watch, when Lynch brings the ball back behind his head, that allows Happ to come over and make the play, and then Minnesota returns the favor in the ensuing possession.
Second foul on Brown. Here's Coffey. He had a solid first half. Now Mason. This is Coffey. Juggled, got it back. Defended by Brown. Here comes Happ of the Badgers.
Looked awkward. That's not a walk.
Now it's Hayes against Mason. Another mismatch, and Hayes trying to dunk it down. It comes down to Happ.
And I tell you what, I thought Hayes got away with a chicken wing. If we take a look at it the next time down the floor, he extended that inside arm. I thought he was able to gain an advantage. Wisconsin fortunate there.
Our 7th lead change. This is a whistle away from the ball, and it's going to be on Happ as he was banging with Lynch inside. That's number 2 on the redshirt sophomore from Milan, Illinois.
Now watch this left arm right there. That's a little bit of a swim stroke and a chicken wing, whatever analogy you want to use, and Wisconsin very fortunate to get a basket.
Springs from the baseline. Springs has 10. When we last left you, it was 35-32 going into halftime, but the officials then looked at a replay on a 3 from Springs and judged it a 2. So that's why it was 34-32, but now half of the Badgers answer back, and Wisconsin back in front by 2.
I expected Happ to do that in the first half. He wasn't able to get that, and that is to step out into the short corner and pull the shot blocker Lynch away from the rim and utilize his quickness off the dribble.
24 Wisconsin, 38 have come in the paint. Murphy for 3.
Good job by Wisconsin defensively of kind of goading Murphy into taking that jump shot. If you are Wisconsin, you'll let Murphy take that shot.
His 18th three-point attempt. He's made only 3 all year. Hayes spins on Murphy over Lynch. Deflected. It rolls out. It's going to stay with Wisconsin, 10 to shoot.
Really good team defensive effort, even though they're not able to come up with the rebound. Hayes spins away from pressure. Now watch Murphy, or Mason rather, come down there and dig out. That allows the recovery time for Lynch to come over. Excellent team defense, because if Mason doesn't come down hard on that spin dribble, there's no way Lynch is going to be able to recover and contest that shot.
Mitchell Trice on the floor for Wisconsin. Showalter comes out. More subs for Wisconsin. Number 21, Khalil Iverson returns, and Vito Brown comes out.
Don't lose sight of the trigger man, Bronson Koenig here. They're going to try to get the ball back to him.
Shot clock did not reset. It's at 5. As Koenig bounces inside. Hamp with 2. And Wisconsin doesn't get it off. The shot clock never reset. And Minnesota with a strong defensive sequence.
Nice job of forcing Koenig to burn a little time with the dribble. And then it was completed by the excellent job by Lynch of forcing Hamp to the baseline.
So Greg Gard speaking with Vito Brown. He's played 14 minutes, and that was up in the air a bit. Sprained his knee against Michigan. Still started today after not practicing on Thursday. Lynch had fell out, and all Hamp inside.
Nice duck in by Lynch, just not able to convert.
There's the bounce to Iverson. And it looked like he walked, and he did.
And there was that strong fake double. Nigel Hayes trying to take advantage. He had the freshman Coffey on him, but then you saw the dig down, and that led to the turnover by the senior Hayes.
Wisconsin averaging 11 turnovers per game. The Badgers with 8. Minnesota with 5. Here's Springs. Off the glass. Thought for a moment he might try to dunk it.
And I thought for a moment that Hamp would go up there and contest that. Usually he does, but I think he was afraid to leave Lynch on the drop-off. Well, Mason doing a good job of navigating all those screens being set for Koenig.
Hamp over Lynch, too strong. Coffey driving with the left hand and one. Richard Coffey, his dad, former Gopher, former paratrooper, on hand watching his son. His son's got 11. Springs and the Gophers lead it home on BTN. Wisconsin and Minnesota packed house here at the barn. Not a seat to be had in a good game. 2-point game, 15:28 to play in the second half. Welcome back to Williams Arena with Sean Morris. I'm Corey Provis. And Richard Pitino made a change to his starting lineup today. Akeem Springs in, Dupree McBrayer off the bench. He was hoping for a spark, and that's happened so far.
39% from behind the arc on the year for Akeem Springs. And this is a team in Wisconsin that Springs is no stranger to. Remember, he was on Milwaukee's squad last year that went in and won in the Kohl Center in Madison. Moving well without the basketball, utilizing a set of screens, and here just inside the three-point line. And what that has done is it's freed up driving lanes as well for Coffey and McBrayer as a result of his willingness to move without the basketball.
Coffey cannot connect in the three-point play. Minnesota 2 of 4 at the line. The Gophers 3 of 3. See the difference in Springs' production home compared to how he's performed on the road. It's not just scoring, but also his field goal shooting numbers. Swing heavily when he's here at the barn. Vito Brown back in against Coffey. Now Mason around Trice, and Lacane in the block. It comes to Lynch, and he scores. Lynch with 4, coming off a 12-point, 6-rebound game.
And Corey, what Springs' offensive production has done, it's forced Wisconsin to put their best on-the-ball defender, Showalter, on him. That's freed things up for a guy like Mason.
Lacane trying to stop a 6-0 run, and that was way off.
That was shrapnel.
Coffey, can he get around Hayes? And he tried to set up Lynch. And it'll go back to Wisconsin after the 6th Minnesota turnover. Time for today's Delta Faucet touch of the game. Nice. Mason found Lynch.
Nice lead at the rim, and Lynch not known as an offensive firepower, but a good job of spinning away, and the completion and the dribble penetration paying dividends again for the Golden Gophers.
Eric Curry on the floor for Minnesota, limited in the first half as he picked up 2 fouls. Showalter, Ron McBrayer, great lead for Happ.
And this is a real key situation for Wisconsin right now, because Nigel Hayes, who is such a big story for them offensively, on the bench right now, trying to get him some rest. I expect to see him back at the next media timeout, but this is a critical situation for Wisconsin, especially offensively.
Showalter, 2 rebounds, 2 assists to go with 7 points.
How about the job of Happ of moving his feet there?
Happ with 11. Here's Curry for 3.
Eric Curry saddled with some foul trouble in the first half, picked up a couple of quick ones. That's not his forte. Only 18% from behind the arc prior to that offense.
Just his 4th made 3 all year. Largest lead today for the Gophers. Trice answers. The Big Ten's leading 3-point shooter.
To the tune of 55%.
Mason, a deep 2 up top. Kane in the rebound.
He took his eye off the rim just a little bit because he saw Happ coming into his vision.
Koenig slips it for Happ, and he ducks it down.
And how about the play by Happ of understanding? He saw, using his peripheral vision, that Lynch was coming down on that strong side. If he goes up and tries to convert with his right hand on that side of the basket, chances are Lynch has a chance to make a play.
5 straight for the Badgers. Can Coffey answer? Yes. Coffey with 14. Trice for the tie. Coffey bounces. Here's McBrayer around Koenig. Wanted a whistle. Instead, it's Koenig as he got McBrayer up. And Happ will drive on Lynch, and a strong take there for Happ.
Happ again understanding that Lynch is not at his most comfortable when he has to move out to that elbow, and Happ able to take advantage. And Happ is tired right now. He's pulling on his jersey. I think he's maybe the most happy person in this arena right now that they have a chance to catch their breath. Both teams playing at a high level of intensity here in the barn.
The NBA draft combine was a great experience. The way I looked at it was kind of like, you know, in a year, I'm going to have a giant test, and here are the answers for it. So now go back and you have a year to look at the answers and prepare yourself for the test. So come back, work on all the things I need to work on, and in the process, get a degree, and hopefully win a couple of championships, and, you know, just leave my legacy here as a good one.
The Journey coming up right after us, an all-new episode of BTN's original program. The Journey Big Ten Basketball 2017. Nigel Hayes profile, not just basketball, but Nigel again will tell us, and we'll learn how he has made a difference in the life of a local family. Also, profiles of Isaac Haas, Paul Wagner, and DJ Wilson of Michigan, all coming up on The Journey.
And that media timeout coming at a very opportune time, especially for Wisconsin. Ethan Happ able to get some much-needed rest. He was really gassed heading into that timeout. It also allowed Wisconsin to get Nigel Hayes back on the floor.
Happ has Wisconsin's 10 of his last 13, adding to it. It's been Ethan Happ big time in the second half. It was Hayes in the first half, but now Happ so far in the second 20.
What you're not going to see in this picture is another red jersey once he goes into the lane. The Badgers doing a great job of spacing the floor, and Ethan Happ puts Bakary Konate in the spin cycle, the sensitive cycle, the rinse cycle, and the completion with the right hand.
Of the last 16 Wisconsin points, Happ now with 13 of them. A 10-3 Badger run. McBrayer with the roll.
I think the thing that surprised me offensively for Minnesota has been the fact that guys like McBrayer and Coffey have been able to get to their left hand so frequently. They have not done as good a job as you're used to seeing of taking away the strong hand defensively so far by the Badgers.
Here's Happ again on Konate. He got it down too low and no answer defensively.
And I tell you, you know what I like about Wisconsin and what they're doing now? Don't outthink yourself. You found a mismatch. Continue to do it until Minnesota stops you.
And the lead is 2. Coffey for the lead. Oh, man. Now it's Hayes against Curry.
Good dig down by Mason.
Koenig for 3. That rattled out, and Curry the rebound.
Good dig down by Mason, getting the ball out of the hands of Hayes.
Wisconsin 4 of 10 for 3. The Gophers, meanwhile, 7 of 10 from beyond the arc so far today. Mason, the floater. And the roll.
Excellent body control by Mason, Corey, because Happ did a pretty good job of rotating over, but you saw Mason kind of turn his body to the left as he was shooting with his right.
Mason with 6, 8 assists. Happ and 1 as he spun around Konate. Happ with 22 at the line for a 3-point chance. Well, you mentioned this a moment ago, Sean. They found this earlier this half, but they have not vacated from finding Happ down low.
And look at the spacing. All 4 of the other players wearing the red jersey go out to the 3-point line, sucking the help out with them, isolating Bakari Konate one-on-one, and Happ able to take advantage of that. Now, this has not been an area of strength for Ethan Happ. Has kind of an unorthodox release. Take a look at where his guide hand is. It's usually, for a great shooter, it's on the side of the ball, but his is on the front, although Happ able to hit that conversion.
He's now 3 of 3 at the line here today. 23 and 8 for Ethan Happ. Nearly had the steal. McBrayer, though, found Lynch, and then Happ recovers the block, and then Lynch stayed with it. Saw this matchup in the first half. Hayes against Curry. Now it's Lynch and Happ. New defender, no difference.
No one utilizes that crab dribble as effectively as Ethan Happ. He gets down low with the basketball and then is able to carve out some space, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of real estate along that baseline.
McBrayer leaves it for Curry. That 3 doesn't go. Lynch's tap no, and it's Happ. Koenig off the Happ screen.
Ethan Happ is really tired right now. He's exerted a lot of effort.
Shot clock under 10. In the corner for 3. Eddie Reynolds in for Jordan Hill. Just his 6th made 3 all year. He's attempted 21. And Wisconsin regains the lead by 3.
And how about the job Trice has done so far? He's had the assignment of Springs.
An 8-2 run with Hayes, a near steal against McBrayer. Fadeaway 2.
Oh, what a gutsy play by McBrayer. Hayes goes for the home run. McBrayer takes care of the basketball and makes the senior from Wisconsin play. But Ethan Happ getting it done, showing you footwork and the ability to convert at the rim. Tight one in the barn.
Let's take a look at today's Motorist Insurance Group drive to the hoop, and why not focus on number 22, Ethan Happ. Sean, he's matched his career high with 25 points and still plenty of basketball left today.
And because of the spacing of his teammates, Corey, that drive to the lane for our Motorist Insurance drive to the hoop it looks like the Autobahn because there's no traffic, because his teammates have spaced the floor so effectively, and Lynch not able to block the shot because Happ utilizing the rim to shield himself from the conference's leading shot blocker in Reggie Lynch.
Ethan Happ, a quick breather. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Wisconsin with the ball, leading by 1 as play resumes. Here's Hayes along the baseline. Trice got McBrayer up for 2. Off the heel, and McBrayer the rebound. Springs with 12 points. Coffee 17 to lead Minnesota. Springs for 3. Short from the get-go.
Yeah, and Trice, I think, he may have a little bit of a stinger. He's kind of trying to shake things loose with his right hand. I think he bumped his shoulder or his elbows. He's trying to get over the top of that screen to contest the shot by Springs.
Greg Garr maybe picked up that same thing. Zach Showalter will check in at the next whistle. Brown finds Koenig in traffic, never got through. Springs on the deck. It looks like he's trying to get the timeout, but play continues in Almasi. McBrayer for 3 in the lead.
And I tell you what, that play is made possible. McBrayer gets rewarded for running the floor, but much like he set up Coffee in the first half by running hard, Reggie Lynch does the same thing. He sprints to the rim. That forces Wisconsin to collapse, allowing the trailer, McBrayer, to have an open look.
Our 11th lead change. Brown got the roll. First points today for Vito Brown. He was sold his first 4. Mason, the floater over 2 defenders. Lynch's tap, no. Lynch got it back again and scores.
I tell you what, he stays with it. Missed the initial tip, but he was able, not necessarily the highest jumper, but very quick off the floor.
Lynch has been able to be a factor in the second half. He's staying out of foul trouble. Trice on that point. Lynch is going to be charged with number 3, and Richard Pitino is irate. It'll be number 3 on Lynch and a couple of free throws for Dimitri Trice when we come back.
I tell you what, Corey, you think these teams don't understand the importance of this ball game, getting on the floor, digging it out, guys giving up their body, Akeem Springs saying, hey, I came here for a reason to help us win. I don't necessarily have to just shoot the basketball for us to be effective. Dupree McBrayer can get it done as well. Akeem Springs, his insertion into the lineup, paying dividends.
Nice look at the Alumni Center on campus here at the University of Minnesota. 5:09 to play, 64-62. The Barnyard has brought it today. The biggest crowd by far the Gophers have had all season long.
What you have there are all the ingredients necessary for a McRib. Excellent job.
Dimitri Trice shooting 2 as play resumes. 12 of 16 at the line this season. The first miss by a Badger at the line here today, now 5 of 6. Under 5 to play. Springs open up top for 3.
Nice job of Wisconsin forcing Springs out a little bit wider. Good team defense. Just enough of a show by Hayes to force out Springs a little bit deeper than he wanted to be.
Trice bounces inside. Happ with 25, matching a career best, trying to add to it, and he is fouled by Lynch. That's number 4. Journey coming up as soon as we are done. profiles include Nigel Hayes, Isaac Haas, Michigan's Mo Wagner, and DJ Wilson. All new episode of The Journey coming up as soon as we are done. Hap's first miss at the line today. Now 3 of 4. Dreyer comes out, Coffey back in. And Konate is going to replace Lynch. Konate, Sean, we were talking during the half. You thought Konate played 13 valuable first half minutes.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job with the foul trouble that Lynch found himself in the first half. But to the credit of the Wisconsin Badgers, they were able to isolate and better utilize spacing. So Konate was on an island for periods of time as Hap was able to get going offensively here in the second stanza.
14th time today this game has been tied. It's featured 12 lead changes.
Good job there by Jordan Hill, jumping the left hand of Coffey, not letting him get going downhill with the left hand.
Mason has 6 points, 9 assists. Coffey with 5.
Really good sequence defensively by Wisconsin.
Over Koenig, way off, air ball, and Wisconsin with a sound defensive possession, and the Badgers get it back with 4:01 to go.
That was an outstanding team defensive stand by Wisconsin. It started with Jordan Hill jumping the left hand of Coffey and not allowing him to turn the corner with momentum with his strong hand. They have to kick it back out, and then Koenig took it from there.
Any doubt where the ball is going right now for Wisconsin?
I wouldn't think so, especially if they're able to space the floor as they've been able to do so effectively. And this time, they set a double screen. Konate doing a good job defensively of forcing out Hap away from the rim.
Here is Hap still backing down, and he traveled. Konate maintained his footing, and he forces the Wisconsin turnover. Hap's been great today. Richard Pitino's team has it when we come back.
Corey, Ethan Hap has been the focal point of the Wisconsin offensive attack, also making his presence known, showing you why he's in the top 3 in block shots in the conference. But when you allow him to set up shop in isolation, this is what he can do to you. Now, that's not to diminish the job that guys like Lynch and Konate have done on him defensively. But when he's able to get isolated one-on-one and Wisconsin spreads the floor as well as they have, it shows you why Ethan Hap has not only been productive throughout the course of the year, but also today for our Quicken Loans amazing performance.
And if you ask some folks that see the Badgers day in and day out, much of Hap's emergence dates back to his redshirt freshman season on the scout team working against Frank Kaminsky.
And you know what? It's a great thing to learn against the future pro when the lights aren't bright. And you can make a lot of mistakes without the scrutiny, and that has been something, especially for the bigs, that Wisconsin's been able to do over the last decade or so, is have a guy come in and mature, not just in terms of his physical presence, but learn from some of the best.
As McBrayer slipped, lost it, no foul, up the floor. It's Hill. Mason got back.
Great job by Mason. What a job by Nate Mason, Corey. That was a leak out, and Mason didn't jog. He sprinted to the rim and took away an opportunity for the Badgers.
Hayes squares up against Curry. With the spin, got him up, and Wisconsin regains the lead. Hayes was 17.
When Hayes did that inside pivot, Corey, it took away the opportunity for Curry to use the arm bar, and Hayes was able to take advantage.
Now Curry, and try to leave it for Konate. A little too fancy on that pass. We've seen that a few times with Konate into the basket today.
Too fancy and also a little bit too fast. Curry's going to be an outstanding player. I like the future for him, but there you have to understand time, space, and speed. He got a little bit ahead of himself.
Gophers haven't scored in almost 3 minutes of play. A 2-point game.
Good job by Curry moving his feet. Really good job by Curry. Excellent job.
The slip to Showalter, and he lost it out of bounds. Minnesota ball.
How about the response by Curry? Has a mistake on the offensive end, but he doesn't hang his head. He's isolated as Wisconsin wants to take advantage of the experience factor. He walls up on Hayes, and then good team defense rotating over leads to the Badger turnover.
The 11th Wisconsin turnover.
That's an area where Wisconsin usually dominates. They're second in the conference in turnover margin, but they're -4 today to the homestanding Gophers.
Reggie Lynch back on the floor for Minnesota, setting the screen right now. He's got 4 fouls. And Happ poked it free. Led the Big Ten in steals a year ago as a freshman. And now Happ underneath, and Lynch is fouled out with 1:54 to play.
What a sequence by Ethan Happ. It starts on the defensive end. Reggie Lynch isn't able to maintain his seal, and it was a poor entry feed. They don't throw it away from the defender. So many times you don't want to necessarily throw it to your teammate. You need to throw it away from the defender. In that case, Happ, he's able to come in and knock it loose. Then he sprints down the floor. Look, that pass is toward the defender and not away from him. Happ takes advantage, and then he sprints to the rim, gets behind Lynch, utilization of the shot fake, and Lynch goes out with his 5th.
So Lynch is now fouled out of 5 of 7 Big Ten games. So a couple of free throws upcoming for Ethan Happ. A journey coming up next.
And that started with the post feed. You don't want to take away the defensive effort by Happ, but if that pass is toward the lane and away from Happ, it's not out of the question that Lynch is going to be able to turn the corner and finish at the rim. Just not a crisp entry feed leads to the breakout opportunity.
Happ shooting 2. Now 5 of 6 at the line.
This is from a guy that came in shooting exactly 50% from the charity stripe prior to this afternoon. That's short.
And he knew it, and Curry, though, had position inside. A 1-possession game.
And you don't need a 3 if you're Minnesota now. Plenty of time.
Wisconsin has committed only 4 fouls.
And that's something to keep an eye on. So if you're...
Mason for the lead. Too strong, and Happ the rebound.
Good blocked out by Happ.
This is a double-double now for Happ. 10 rebounds to go with 27 points. Hayes for 3 from the wing. Off the mark, and Coffey the rebound.
You know, that's one where Hayes might have been better served attacking and trying to get to the rim because he had Konate out on an island defensively.
Gophers have 2 timeouts. Mason, the 2 in the paint, fell off. Showalter lost it. It comes into the hands of Hill.
And now what happens, a common foul will just reset the shot clock because right now Minnesota only has 5 team fouls. So if you're Wisconsin right now, Corey, attack off the dribble because if they give a common foul, you'll take it out on the side and the shot clock resets.
Koenig letting that clock tick down. Looking inside instead, Hill. He walks. The 12th turnover. 67-64, 22.2 seconds remaining. And the Gophers call time. They'll have the ball, 1 timeout remaining.
As you take a look at the foul situation, you know both coaches are going to emphasize that in the timeout. Right now, Minnesota with 5 team fouls, the Badgers with only 4. So if you're in a situation where it looks like a guy may be coming off and trying to step into a 3, give the common foul before he can go into the motion, because then they have to take the ball out on the side, and you still have 1 more foul to give before Minnesota finds themselves in the bonus.
Now the Golden Gophers have been in a scoring drought at the worst possible time. Their last field goal came with 5:25 to play in the half. A scoring drought of more than 5 minutes. Under Greg Gard, the Badgers have been so good, Sean, in games like this. Not just Greg Gard, but go back and you can see why Wisconsin has been so good for more than a decade now at winning Big Ten games on the road.
And the reason is that they have guys that usually have experience.
Yeah.
And this year is a great example of it. You're starting 4 seniors and a redshirt sophomore. It's been on display here today. It was on display in their last outing where they didn't play their best basketball for about 35 minutes versus Michigan, but they never panicked. You could see it not just in what they were able to do in terms of execution, but in their body demeanor. And this is what having some guys with some experience can pay dividends, as the numbers attest.
Look at that winning percentage since 2014, 2015, 78%, 32-9. You go back since the 2001-2002 season. Nobody has more road Big Ten wins than the Badgers. It's not even close. Wisconsin with 93. Michigan State second on that list. They're in the low 80s.
And a big reason for that, we've talked about the experience. As Trent Tucker, one of the all-time greats in Golden Gopher history, looks on. But it's not just the experience factor for the Badgers. Traditionally, Corey, they also have done a number of things that have helped their cause. Most notably, they don't turn the basketball over. They're usually among the teams that foul the least, so the opposition doesn't have a chance to score easy baskets. And then they make good decisions and are usually, this year, a little bit of an exception, an excellent foul shooting team. And this team from the foul line is pretty good, with the exception of guys like Hayes and Happ, who are struggling a little bit. Happ with 50% on the year, and Hayes at 60 coming into this ballgame.
See what the Gophers drew up in the timeout. With 15 seconds, a one-possession game. Springs for three in the tie. All tied at 67.
You're beating on a drive. Give the foul right now if you're Minnesota.
Koenig with two. He lost it. Coffey's got it at half court. And that'll do it for the first 20. No whistle. Richard Pitino thought that a foul was called, and now the officials are going to meet near the half-court line.
Boy, I thought I heard a whistle as well. And what they're going to do is that they have the opportunity to go over and see if indeed a whistle was blown and whether it was blown with time still left on the clock.
Now, it's worth noting, you look at the foul situation, Wisconsin had fouls to give now as they look things over. So even if a whistle and they determine that a foul was called, it does not mean free throws.
Correct. What it will do, though, however, is it would move Wisconsin one foul closer to putting Minnesota in the bonus. And the reason we're going to extra session is the job done by Akeem Springs. How about Coach Richard Pitino kind of going with a hunch and putting Akeem Springs in the lineup, and he has delivered. And the person he replaced in the lineup, he's been kind of under the radar. Dupree McBrayer, how about the response coming off the bench? You know, he didn't hang his head. He's done a really, really good job. And when we were talking with the Minnesota coaching staff today, he said, look, I'm not benching Dupree McBrayer. It doesn't have that he's played poorly. I just want to get a little bit more offense, especially from behind the arc, and Akeem Springs has delivered in that regard.
All right, Sean, let's take a look here.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't hear the audio, but you saw in the background the light of the backboard.
Chris Beaver and Donnie Epley, two of our three officials, looking things over.
How about the delivery by Springs? I mean, he's shown himself to be a pretty good standstill three-point shooter, but that's a difficult shot for a right-handed shooter. He's forced to his off or left hand and has to convert from deep.
For the time being, zeros on the clock. Let's take a listen here as we listen to the last second here. You certainly could hear the whistle.
Yeah, I think if you're a Minnesota fan, what they're going to try to sell is that, well, he was going into a shooting motion.
Right, he was fouled in the act of shooting, but clearly that wasn't the case.
No. Hey, but it's worth trying.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you got to go in front of Judge Judy. You just got to convince one person on the officiating crew. The ball just flat out slipped out of Bronson Koenig's hands. If there's a foul, it's probably right there. And he is, they do give him that foul. That would be the 15th foul, and thus far they have not.
No added time. And Chris Beaver's going to walk over, and we thank him for doing this. He's going to tell Sean exactly what the officials saw and what they are saying. So we will go to overtime. 67-67. As we said at the top, the 200th all-time meeting between these two longtime rivals. And 2 halves of basketball, not enough to decide it. What did you learn from Chris Beaver a moment ago?
Great explanation by the officiating crew. What they determined once they were able to get a number of angles is that they did indeed hear a whistle, but they saw the zeros and the light. Therefore, the foul was not credited while the game was still in session or while there was still time in the clock. If it had been called, Corey, what it would have been just a common foul, as you and I were hypothesizing. So right now, the foul does not go on to only 14 fouls for Wisconsin thus far as we start the second session. Minnesota with 5 fouls.
First overtime game this year for Wisconsin. Minnesota and Purdue went to overtime in West Lafayette on New Year's Day. And Wisconsin will have it as this overtime period begins at the Barn.
And as we go to overtime, the absence of the shot-blocking presence of Lynch could loom large, especially with the way Happ has played here in the second half.
Minnesota also went to overtime here at home in the Big Ten opener and lost to Michigan State. Here's Hayes over Curry.
Oh, man.
Hayes with 19.
The inside pivot, and Curry felt, hey, you know what? I've done my job. That's just an outstanding inside pivot and conversion from the short corner.
And Happ poked it free of Konate, but a fortunate bounce, and Konate on the drive is fouled. That's not something Konate does often. And you mentioned it, and he'll shoot too.
Konate in an uncomfortable situation, and if Hill maintains verticality, he probably has a chance to take the charge. But once you saw him bring his hands down, it's an easy call for the official to make, and Hill just fortunate because that was an SUV coming downhill on a Prius.
Oh, how about that home bounce for Konate? Only 12 of 20 at the line.
This kid has played one heck of a game for the Golden Gophers today. That may be his only 2 points, but he has impacted the game in far other ways.
On the defensive side, you go late stages first half. While Lynch was on the bench with 2 fouls, Konate played great defense just before the break.
And Curry doing a really good job of forcing Hayes away from the post.
Hayes, high arcing 2, an air ball. Happ lost it. Konate's got it.
Nice job by the freshman, Eric Curry. Great response by the freshman.
Coffey's had a great game, 17 points, trying to add to it, and does.
Now, if I'm Wisconsin, I got to make sure that number 22 catches the ball. And he's got to catch the ball down there around the block. Let's see if they try to spread the floor and get him something going toward the rim.
Greg Gard was screaming at his players for a timeout, but with the noise here at the Barn, the Wisconsin players could not hear their head coach. So Wisconsin calls a timeout with 3:22 to play and 20 to shoot.
For the reason that Minnesota's been able to grab a 2-point lead here in the extra session has been the play of a couple of freshmen. Defensively, Eric Curry forces a tough shot by Hayes, and then his fellow freshman, Amir Coffey, able to get going with his left hand right here. Then the step back, Showalter loses his balance a little bit, and Amir Coffey takes advantage. Pretty good job by Showalter, but he's not able to recover because he lost his footwork. And Coffey says, hey, I will take both of these. Good job by Showalter of moving his feet. And how about the step back and the composure by Coffey to deliver? And that's a sign of respect when the opposition puts Showalter on you, as the Badgers had to do right there on Coffey.
Barnes been loud all day. A 2-point game as play resumes. Hayes wants it down low instead. It's Hill.
And Springs doing a really good job of gapping. And what I mean by that is he understands that Hill not necessarily comfortable shooting, so he's splitting the difference, Corey, between coming all the way out and then allowing the clean post feed. He's kind of staring there in no man's land and taking away the post feed because he knows that's where Wisconsin wants to go.
Kick ball, shot clock resets to 15. Half against Konate. It was blocked twice. Konate once, and then Springs. It comes out to Koenig. Bronson Koenig for three, and the Badgers lead by one.
How many big shots has that young man hit in his career in Madison? Held in check for long periods of time, but when they needed him most, he drains it.
Trey Jackson's injury, Koenig's sophomore year really gave Koenig a chance to step up big time, and what a career he's had in Madison. Foul on Showalter. That's the 6th team foul on Wisconsin. 72-71. Coffey having trouble here. And does. Ball into Springs.
Good job by Hill of being on the catch. Nice job by Hill. Good job by Jordan Hill.
Mason around Koenig, and a whistle and a foul on the floor. This will be a 1-and-1 for Nate Mason. And they're going to get Bronson Koenig with the foul, his second.
Mason able to turn the corner, and what you don't see is at the bottom of your screen, Akeem Springs had set up shop in that left corner, and because he has knocked down so many shots, his defender couldn't come down there and give the help on the dribble penetration.
So 1-and-1 for Mason, a 76% free throw shooter. Minnesota gets the free throw line a ton, nearly 25 attempts per game. Tonight, only 8. They've made 6 of them, and Minnesota now leads by 1.
Minnesota again, Corey, with only 5 common fouls.
Konate trying to front half. Here is that, muscling down low, off the glass, too strong. Curry clears.
Good wall up by Konate. And what they tried to do is they isolated Koenig in the corner with Happ on that strong post side.
Konate is season high 21 minutes here today. Springs at the big 3 that tied the game. Late in regulation, and he'll shoot 2.
Last time down the floor offensively, Konate getting over the top, trying to front. And then once the interior feed goes, you see number 24 slide to the corner. That takes away the help from Mason, but you see Akeem Springs coming over. But that opportunity to contest is not there unless Konate does a really good job of walling up.
Foul on Jordan Hill, number 3. 2 shots here for Springs. 72% at the line. And costly miss right there.
Now, if he's going to miss, it'll be short because the last one was long. So if you are Wisconsin right now, you need to pinch.
Minneapolis, all you. Hayes for the tie. Hayes with 21. Last few trips down the floor, Sean, Minnesota has been attacking the basket, not settling for perimeter shots.
And the next foul would only be the 9th. So if you're Wisconsin and you give the foul, it's only a 1-on-1 opportunity.
Mason slipped, got it to Curry from the baseline. Curry with 5. He played big in the overtime win at Purdue. And Wisconsin calls a timeout with 53.8 to play. Mason now with 10 assists. Number 10 finds Curry, and the Gophers lead by 2.
Curry being tested on the defensive end as a true freshman, having to guard Nigel Hayes. But when things haven't gone his way, I tell you what, the future is bright for that young man because he doesn't hang his head. And he's able to step out to the short corner. Hayes kind of gets taken out when Mason goes to the ground, and the composure shown by Eric Curry, very impressive.
And Eric Curry, Sean, you go back to the first few minutes of the opening half, he was frustrated defending Nigel Hayes. He picked up 2 fouls in about 2 minutes. Was a non-factor in the first half.
But he didn't check out of the game mentally. And that, to me, is one of the things that makes his career here, his future career, so bright. I tell you, when he first got my attention, when he checked into the ball game in Tallahassee against Florida State, against an elite front line, a lot of guys would come in, and you could tell they checked in because they might have left a jet stream behind them because they're so nervous. Not this young guy. He checked in. He was not intimidated. He was not frightened, and he battled. And he has done that here today because he has been challenged on the defensive end of the floor. Sometimes he's been exposed as a true freshman, but what hasn't been exposed is a lack of mental toughness.
See Richard Coffey there, Minnesota sweatshirt on.
Yeah, talk about toughness.
Yeah, his career we have documented many times. Trent Tucker is here as well. Minnesota still has a foul to give with 50 seconds to play. Koenig off a screen for the lead. He does it again. Bronson Koenig. Ice water in the veins, and the Badgers lead by 1.
A down screen, and Koenig comes off shoulder to shoulder.
No matter the moment, no matter the stage, number 24 watched the ball, and time again, that man delivers.
He sets up his defender, Corey, takes him one way, then he gets low, he dips his shoulder to come off the screen. That gives him momentum. He has 1, 2, now watch him dip his shoulder. That allows him to get his feet set and step into the jump shot. He came off a stagger screen. Mason's got to go through a lot of traffic. He tries to get low, but because Koenig had him moving without the basketball, and then he dips that shoulder. It's a small thing, but an important thing. If he comes in with his legs straight up, he's not going to be able to step into that jump shot so fluidly.
The way that Minnesota has defended tonight, at times did you see the Gophers saying, you know what, we're not going to double down low because we're too worried about that, too worried about the double team, and you've got Koenig or you've got Trice, a three-point weapon open on the perimeter.
And that was a set play to get the ball going to him. And Minnesota, to their credit, Corey, has not deviated from their plan. They came in talking about, hey, you know what? We want to make them hit tough twos and not big threes. And by and large, they've been able to accomplish that being a notable exception most recently.
The journey coming up next. 30 seconds to play. 15 to shoot for Coffey. Against Hayes, off the glass, no. Konate had it ripped away by Happ. And Minnesota fouls Koenig with 22 seconds to play. Konate had it, but there was Happ once again wrestling the ball away. And Wisconsin will have the ball, not yet shooting. The 6th team foul.
How about the sequence by Happ? He comes over and contests this, right? But then he just comes in and he just took it from Bakari Konate. He just took it. No other way to put it.
Showalter, now Hill.
Smart play.
And the bounce to Happ and a foul. And Minnesota fouls Happ. This will be a 1-and-1. Team foul number 7 with 12.9 to play. The Gophers elected not to foul Koenig. They couldn't foul Hayes. Showalter to Hill, and then the foul where Happ had an easy 2 perhaps, but he took a couple dribbles, Sean, outside the paint.
And what he wanted to do was get the ball out of his hands. But he wasn't able to do it, and good recognition by Minnesota defensively, because he was about a half a tick away from getting that ball out of his hands before Minnesota was able to locate and foul.
This will be a 1-and-1 for Ethan Happ. He's 5 of 7 at the line tonight. A career best 27 points to go with 12 rebounds, 6 assists for the redshirt sophomore from Milan, Illinois. Minnesota, by the way, out of timeouts.
So you know that what Minnesota's doing right now is they're saying, look, this is what happens regardless of the situation. This is what we have to do if he splits these. This is what we have to do if it's 2 that are made. And this is what we do if he misses the front end.
So about 10 seconds, Sean, if you think back to when Wisconsin inbounded the ball. 10 seconds of game clock. Instead of fouling Koenig, who's an 88% free throw shooter, the Gophers said, all right, we'll gamble the 10 seconds. Instead, they foul Ethan Happ. A 1-and-1. Nope. Oh, my. Well, Springs got, I should say, Coffey got one. And now it's Happ who gets to bank one in here.
You could almost hear the exhale from Happ as he walked back to the line.
Just grazed the rim. Curry's got it. No timeouts for Minnesota in a 2-point game. It's Mason with 4. It's Springs with 3. Springs for the win at the buzzer. Fell out, and the Badgers win by 2 in overtime. Ethan Happ, for good reason, is exhausted. 28 points and 12 rebounds. The Badgers go on the road and win again in the Big Ten. Minnesota falls to 3-4 in league play. The Badgers now 5-1. The 17th ranked team of the country was challenged on the road. Minnesota in the late stages of regulation got a game-tying 3 from Akeem Springs. But in overtime, Wisconsin prevails. Nate Mason gave Akeem Springs the chance. Guy that was so clutch today had a look, and it fell off. Another look from behind. Springs was 16. He made 3 threes, but that one did not go. And outside of a blowout loss at Michigan State last week, Minnesota's conference losses have been very, very closely played games. The 200th installment between the Badgers and the Gophers, and it lived up to the hype here tonight. Ethan Happ with 28, Nigel Hayes had 21. Amir Coffey 19, Akeem Springs 16, Dupree McBrayer 14. A packed house, and we enjoyed bringing this to you here on BTN. Wisconsin wins. Now 16-3. Minnesota falls to 15-5 as the Badgers in overtime win by 2. That'll do it from Minneapolis, where again the final score in overtime, Wisconsin 78 and Minnesota 76. For Sean Morris, producer Steve Johnson, director Pat O'Connor, and our great crew, this is Corey Provis saying so long from the Twin Cities. This has been a presentation of the Big Ten Network. Again, our final in overtime, Wisconsin 78, Minnesota 76. Stay tuned. The journey begins now on BTN.